What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today we're going to be working on a 2016 BMW F25 X3. Today on the F25 behind me, we're going to be covering how to service your transfer case. This is going to be applicable to both xDrive 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder models. We recommend you do this service every 30,000 miles. If you want to extend it a little bit, we wouldn't recommend pushing it past 50, but 30,000 is going to be the magic number here. Now, on these cars, it's a little bit interesting. BMW switched to making this almost nearly impossible. There is no longer a drain plug, so you will see we only have one fill plug. We also have a bottle of Shell, which is OE fluid for the transfer case. It takes about 600 milliliters, so 1 liter is going to be more than enough. So now we know what we're working with. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the tools we're going to need to do this job. For this DIY, we're going to be using a torque wrench along with a couple ratchets. We have both 3/8 drive and 1/2 inch drive. We have a small 2.5 inch extension for our 3/8 drive ratchet. Along with that, we have a couple sockets. We have a 16, a 13, a 10, and an 8mm socket, along with a 6-point 14mm hex. We have our FCP Euro adapter for our CTA 7073 syringe. We have a small paint pen, an 18mm wrench, and then a nice to have is an electric tool to get the splash shields off a little bit quicker. There's a lot of 8mm bolts down there. And not pictured here, but needed, is going to be a catch pan for the fluid. Now we know what tools we're working with. Let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, my good people, we are under the F25. We're going to work on getting to this transfer case. Got a couple of things to take off. Most importantly though, if you're doing this job at home, following along in the driveway or the garage, make sure the vehicle is level. Whenever you're doing a transfer case, a differential, even a transmission, you want to make sure the car is perfectly level so you get your fill levels correct. So first things first here is we're going to have to remove the driver's side of the shielding here and a little bit of this metal shielding to access some of the bracket bolts, as this bracket's going to have to come down to get to the fill/drain plug on this transfer case. We're going to start by removing a couple 10mm plastic nuts, which are going to be up here by the felt wheel liner. So we'll take these two 10s off, followed by a bunch of 8mm bolts. So let's get to it. We have two 10s that attach to the wheel liner and the shield. We're going to zap those out first. That will allow us to pull this down and separate those two. Now we're going to switch over to our 8mm, and we're just going to work our way back, starting with the corner up here and making our way around. And then we have a couple big, large rivets that hold this shield to the side skirt of the car. We're going to try to leave those in place for now and work around those, but we should be able to peel this panel back now. Starting with the heat shield, putting that over a bit. All right, so we're just going to work around this. This will give us enough room to access the two bolts here for our bracket. All right, now that we have our shield out and all our hardware accessible for the mount, the next thing we're going to do is support the transfer case, as we are going to be dropping the mount. So if you're working along at home, use a floor jack. Here today in this shop, we're going to use the screw jack since we're under the car. We're just going to go ahead and rest this up against the transfer case itself, meaning the body of the transfer case, not the mount, as the body is going to stay behind. All right, perfect. We're just taking off a little bit of tension. Now we're going to set ourselves up. We have an access hole here at the front of the bracket. We're going to need that with a 16mm socket. We have a small 2-inch extension. We're just going to go ahead and feed that through so we can remove that bolt. And we're also going to grab an 18mm wrench and counter hold from the back. So let's do that now. All right, my good people, you can see we have our ratchet hanging here and we have our 18mm wrench in the back. It's a little bit tight, so we're going to go ahead and just pan around and give you a good view of what these tools actually look like and what they're doing. For now, we're going to go ahead and break this 16mm bolt free. So I'm going to counter hold my 18 in the back. Got my 16mm socket up front. We have our 18mm nut, which we're going to set to the side. And then we may be able just sling that bad boy back from the front, push it back through. Now we're going to switch over to our 13mm socket. We have 313s on the passenger side to zap out. And we have another 2 on the driver's side. So we should go ahead and get those next. All right, we have 313s on the passenger side. We're gonna go ahead and zap these out using the impact. Now let's switch over to the driver's side. All right, with all that hardware removed, this bracket is ready to come down. There we go. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove our fill/drain plug, again, 6.14 millimeter hex. All right, now we have that plug off. We're gonna work on siphoning out our fluid. We have a catch pan below just to catch any of this excessive drippage, as we're gonna need it when we fill it. We're gonna use our adapter tool here for the siphoning out of fluid and attach it to our CTA pump. We're gonna go ahead and just insert it and just get out as much fluid as possible. Oh yeah, that is murky, my good people. You can see how nasty and dark that fluid is. Should definitely be a nice light golden brown. All right, my good people. At this point, we have siphoned out everything that we can out of our transfer case here. We're gonna go ahead and clean out our fluid transfer pump and we'll get ready to refill it with some fresh fluid. So I'll catch you in a little bit. All right, my good people, we are gonna fill the system back up. Again, vehicle is perfectly level. We're just gonna fill until it starts to dribble out of our fill hole and then we'll plug it back up. So I'm just gonna extract fluid out of our bottle here down on my tool cart. And we're gonna fill it until it's full. How many times did I just say fill in full? Leave it in the comment section below. You can see the nice, beautiful golden color of the fluid going back in. That's what you want this to look like. So we were certainly due for a service here. All right. So that took just about 600 milliliters. We have exactly 400 left in our bottle. So pretty accurate. That's nice to see that we got most of the old fluid out, if not all of it. We're gonna go ahead and let that come to a slow dribble in just a moment. Now we're gonna go ahead and start our new plug by hand. And then we're gonna torque it down to 60 Newton meters. Again, this is a 14 millimeter 6-point hex. We're gonna torque this down to 60 Newton meters. Beautiful. We're gonna hit it with a splash of brake clean. All right, and then you know the drill, my good people. We are gonna hit this with the old mark. And now we're gonna go ahead and get our bracket ready for install and button this thing up. All right, we're gonna go ahead and feed the bracket back in, or the cross member here. And if you remember, it came out kind of in a funky manner, so we're gonna go ahead and feed it back up in that same way. Something like so. All right, and now to kind of help us here, we're gonna feed the 16 millimeter bolt through first. All right, that's what we like to see. Now we're just gonna start by hand threading in the 3 13 millimeter bolts on the passenger side. All right, and with those situated, we're gonna go ahead and start the 2 16s on the driver's side by hand as well. 2 16s, 19 Newton meters. 3 13s, 19 Newton meters. All right, these we can access, so I'm just gonna go ahead and paint mark them. Now we're gonna go ahead and tighten down our 16 millimeter bolt to 68 Newton meters. We're gonna thread our 18 millimeter nut on the back just by hand. All right. We got our 18 millimeter wrench on the back to counter hold. I'm just gonna use a 3/8 drive ratchet to snug them up. Right now the nut is not spinning on the back side, but you can use a wrench just to ensure. I'm just gonna watch it and make sure that this tightens down. Beautiful. Now that that is situated, that means our mount and everything's nice and installed. We can lose the screw jack. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our shielding once more. We're going to tuck this plastic one behind our metal heat shield here. Feed that back like that. Then we're going to start with the 8mm hardware. We're just going to zap them in as we go around. 8mm bolt, 8mm socket. We have two 10s up front here that join the fender well felt liner to the shield. And we have this last one that joins these two shields in the middle. All right, my good people. And with that, that is going to conclude this DIY for today. Overall, a really straightforward job on the F-25. If you're working along at home, just give yourself enough room to crawl in and out of the car and something to set up a floor jack so you can remove this cross member. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, please be sure to leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.